So one of the big questions that often gets asked is, if Theresa May is such a weak Prime Minister, why is she still here? Why is she still around to be the Prime Minister? And this article, in the New Statesman, sums this up very accurately. Why she's still there. So, in June 2017. A few days before her electoral humbling, Theresa May declared, "You can only deliver Brexit if you believe in Brexit. Her premiership depends on proving herself wrong." The Prime Minister might have been a reluctant Remainer, but she is still the more reluctant Leaver. Even now, May refuses to say that she would vote for the Sphinxian task of Brexit. Tory Leavers can only have themselves to blame for this. In the 2016 Conservative leadership election, not one, but three of their candidates, Grove, Johnson and Ledson, all self-imploded. After May's disastrous loss of the Tories' majority, no one sought to deprive her of her seat. At any other time, she would have been gone. There would have been no question. So the question you still have to ask, why is she still here almost 2 years on? What's the real reason she's here for? So for nearly 2 years, the Prime Minister's Faustian pact with the Brexiteers has held, but rarely has it appeared more threadbare. The Brexit War Cabinet has so far distinguished itself by waging war on May's preferred customs partnership. Boris Johnson, in a rolling demonstration of how unshakable he is, has publicly derided the Prime Minister's policy as crazy. Leavers privately threaten a confidence vote in May should she refuse to comply with their demands. Brexiteers assail the Prime Minister for her indecision and her Marxists denouncing and like Marxists denouncing the Soviet Union, insists that the problem lies only with the practice, not the theory. Yet Leavers would be weaker, rather than stronger, without the human shield of May's tumultuous manner, and reflects the necessity to find a deal that both Parliament and the EU will approve. This task would be harder still were Downing Street occupied by a Leaver. Tory Remainers who reluctantly side with the government in votes would feel no compulsion to do so if Grove, Johnson or David Davis were Prime Minister, and the EU would feel even less goodwill towards a true Brexit believer. The strongest charges against May are not the ones that Leavers are well placed to level. The Prime Minister was reckless to trigger Article 50 in March 2017 before the Cabinet had agreed its stance, but Brexiteers accuse her of both sloth rather than haste, and May squandered the Tories' majority in an unnecessary election. But it was her embrace of a hard Brexit that prompted a rebellion. When Conservative MPs urged her to retreat following the result, Leavers implored her to defy a newly hung Parliament, which has defied them in turn. Only those who support the apocalyptic option of a no deal propose a clear alternative. And in an act of Brextremism, the deadlock endures. The Cabinet perpetually argues over options already deemed mutually workable by the EU, but Brexiteers should not mistake Theresa May for the cause of their woes. She is merely the symptom. And that's essentially where we are. That's why she's there. She acts as the human shield, and eventually, I've said this before, she will become the blame magnet when it all goes wrong. They will blame her meticulously. And let's not forget that you had as was stated, you had three prominent levers of, Grove, Johnson, and Angela Leadsom. And let's not forget, Boris Johnson could have walked that. If he'd have gone in that leadership election, he would have walked it. There would have been no competition. And let's not forget, when you've got people who are saying the likes of I've forgotten his name now. Of all I can describe him as, he's the guy from the Beano, the Dennis and Menace's arch rival, Cuthbert. Yeah. Oh, I can't believe I've forgotten his name. Yeah. Basically, Jacob Rees-Mogg, that's it. If Mogg wanted the premiership, he could topple her if he wanted to. And all these guys are doing are essentially backseat Brexiting. Because they want to do this, the no-deal Brexit, which would cause the most harm to a country imaginable. We've already gone over the numbers. A permanent trade loss by 8% is not something, we're not 8% really might sound like a small number, but even when you're looking at 2%, if we went with the Norway option, 2% is trillions of pounds. And it's not like you can paper over the cracks, permanently. It will just be insane. And you have to ask, I think, the question of why they're trying to do this. And, that's why I always say, if you want to try and understand the why, read The Great Brexit Swindle. It's the best explanation of what a lot of these people are, trying to push for. That's why Liam Fox, the disgraced former Defence Secretary, was allowed back in the cabinet. Because he has links with the Atlantic Bridge. But, and like I say, she's the convenient human shield for these people. Because if after Brexit, they can then potentially remove her and say, oh, you see, you've done it all wrong. You see, if only we had listened to us. When you've got to remember, the state May is in at the moment, she could be toppled within the next hour. That's how fragile a lot of people who report in her position really are. So any one of these, hardcore Brexiteers could walk into a position and take over. But they don't want to. Because they know the harm they will cause, and they don't want to get blame for the harm they caused, because then people might realise Brexit was a bad idea. So, yeah, May is just, the human shield at this point for these guys. And I genuinely wonder if she realises that come post-Brexit, she will take the blame from all these people. I would love to see her write a tell-all book when she leaves about this time period of what was going on in the cabinet, because I would read that. I think a vast majority of people would love to read that and get insights of just what the hell was going on behind closed doors in these cabinet meetings. It would be really interesting to know, to be honest.